Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my picks for some of my favorite winter horror movies. I love both fall and winter horror very much, but I think that winter horror just wins out by a little bit for me. There are a couple reasons why. First off, I love the blood on the snow aesthetic, and then I also really just love the fact that the weather itself is playing against our main characters just as the villains in these stories are. It's just even more scary, I think. So the first one that I want to talk about is actually a mini series, and that is Stephen King's Storm of the Century. In this one, we have a very small island town in Maine that is gearing up for a really bad winter storm that they're about to have. And at the same time, they do find one of their own has been brutally murdered, and they also are introduced to a very sinister stranger. "Give me what I want and I'll go away," is the line that he continuously says to them throughout the course of this mini-series, and it's usually punctuating these horrific events that they have going on. And it just happens to be that what he is asking for is something that no one can really be prepared for. And I think that in a sea of very dark works by Stephen King, this remains one of the darkest. And this one, having a big winter storm in it, definitely makes it the perfect winter watch. The next one that I want to talk about is Crimson Peak. In this Guillermo del Toro film, we do have an aspiring writer who is very in tune with the spirits around her, and she ends up falling in love with an Englishman. She goes to live with him in his gorgeous but very decrepit Gothic mansion, and it is very much haunted. I think that this movie has just absolutely awesome winter atmosphere, and it's just such a gorgeous film to look at, as is usually the case with a lot of Guillermo del Toro films. And this one is one that I really love watching. Allerdale Hall is definitely the place that I would want to live, despite how beat up it really is, and all the ghosts as well. The next one that I want to talk about is a pretty recent film, and that is Black Phone 2. I love that this one is in a winter setting for this sequel. In it, we get to see where Finney is at after the trauma from the first film when he is kidnapped by the grabber. And we also get to see how Gwen is coping with the visions that she sees. And she is seeing a lot more of them in the beginning of this film, and most of the visions that she's having are taking place at a winter camp. And they decide that they need to go to that camp, that way they can try to uncover the mystery that it has there, and they end up seeing some familiar faces there as well. I think that it does a lot of cool stuff with the winter aesthetic, and really getting to see the grabber ice skate was not something that I knew I needed, but I definitely needed it once I had seen it. The next one that I want to talk about is 30 Days of Night. In this film, we have a small Alaskan town that is gearing up for their annual event of 30 days with no sunlight. Most of the people have gone south for the winter, but some of them have remained, and they quickly realize that they have put themselves in a very bad spot, as they have a group of vampires that have descended upon them in order to feed during this optimal time for them. And this is absolutely one of my favorite vampire movies ever. The vampires themselves are just so ugly and terrifying, and that is what I vastly prefer to more of the alluring vampires that we usually get in a lot of other films. I definitely prefer them horrifying and not sexy. That's just a personal thing for me. But I think that if you are like me and you like the whole blood on the snow aesthetic, this is the perfect movie for that for you. The next one that I want to talk about is Frozen, and not the animated film. This one is about a group of friends that end up stranded on a ski lift when they have gone up on it right at the end of the business hours at a resort that they are at, and they are going to be stuck there for multiple days, as it is either the weekend or a holiday coming up. I can't remember which. And the weather itself is really terrible, and that definitely gives an opportunity to have some good body horror in there. And they also have to worry about the threat of wolves coming after them. I think that this one is just a really harrowing watch, and one that is absolutely perfect one for wintertime. The next one that I want to talk about is The Thing. In this John Carpenter cult classic, we have a group of scientists in Antarctica who are taking in the sled dog that had been attacked by people in a helicopter, and they come to find out that the sled dog has killed off a lot of their own dogs as well as some of their own. And the thing that was in that sled dog is able to take on the form of its victims. And so I think that this one is just chock full of paranoia and mystery, and it just makes for a really interesting watch. It has some of the best, if not the best, practical effects ever put to film in this one, and it's definitely gotten a huge following for a good reason. The next one that I want to talk about is Misery. In this film, we have a writer who has been in a car accident that gets picked up by his number one fan, and she takes him in, but she goes through his things and finds his manuscript for his most recent book, and she reads it and she is absolutely not happy with what she finds in there. So she ends up kidnapping him and telling him that he has to change his story to suit her needs. This one has two amazing powerhouse performances by the two leads, and I think that it is just one of the best Stephen King adaptations of all time, easily. And I think that it does do well with the winter aesthetic as well. And I think that it's just an interesting story for anyone that's trying to achieve any level of fame, because you never really know what a fan could do. So the last ones that I want to talk about are more of a 1-2 punch of The Shining and its follow-up of Dr. Sleep. The Shining is not a very faithful adaptation of Stephen King's original work. However, it is still a very iconic movie in its own right. In this one, we do follow Jack Torrance and his wife and son when they are going to stay at the Overlook Hotel in Colorado during the entire winter off season, so he can be the caretaker there and also work on his writing. And he is a struggling / recovering alcoholic, and his son happens to be psychic, and the hotel itself has one hell of a past, and it really causes his son to have these horrifying visions. And this one has the hedge maze, which is not canon to the book, but I do think that it does make for a very good setting to accentuate the winter here for that final act. Then in Dr. Sleep, we follow Jack's son Danny when he is an adult, and he is trying to help a young girl who has the same powers that he does. And all the stuff that he goes through in that film leads him back to the Overlook Hotel, where he has to face his demons once more. And the winter part of this is admittedly not that long of the part, and it's just toward the end. However, I think that it does make a big impact when it gets to that point. But I want to know what you think down in the comments. Did you agree with my choices, or would you have put some different winter horror movies in their places? Let me know all that down below. And if you enjoyed this one, please leave a like on it. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet for more horror content. I do post 2 new videos each week. You can follow me on Instagram for updates on my channel, as well as additional horror content. You can also follow me on Letterboxd to see what I have been watching lately and my brief thoughts on any of those films. If you want either of those, they are linked in my channel description for easy access for you guys. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been watching my channel so far. It doesn't go unnoticed. My name is Devin. This is Carpenter Hill. Thanks for watching.